On June 28, 1914, the summer air in Sarajevo was thick with anticipation. It was a day of celebration, a day of imperial pageantry. But beneath the veneer of ceremony, a dark current of resentment was gathering force, ready to drag an entire continent into the abyss. In the heart of the city, a single gunshot would soon echo. A sound that would not only end to lives, but would also serve as the starting gun for a global catastrophe. It was a moment born of nationalism, forged in conspiracy and sealed by a twist of fate so improbable it feels like fiction. A moment that would set the world on a collision course with itself. The man at the center of this storm was Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the sprawling and increasingly fragile Austro-Hungarian Empire. He was not a universally beloved figure. Within the Viennese court, he was seen as difficult, stubborn, and dangerously His marriage to Sophie Chotek, a woman deemed below his station, had caused a scandal and ostracized them from the highest circles of power. Yet, he was the future. His visit to Sarajevo, the capital of the recently annexed province of Bosnia-Herzegovina, was intended as a display of that future, a projection of imperial strength and a gesture of goodwill. But in the shadows of Sarajevo, another group of young men had their own vision for the future. They were nationalists, members of a secret society known as the Black Hand, funded and armed by rogue elements within the Serbian state. To them, Franz Ferdinand was not a future king. He was a symbol of oppression, the face of a foreign power ruling over what they considered their land. They were not soldiers or seasoned assassins. They were students, poets, and printers, boys filled with a romantic and ultimately deadly sense of purpose. Their plan was simple and brutal: to kill the Archduke and, in doing so, strike a blow for Serbian independence. As the Archduke's motorcade began its procession along the Appel Quay, the assassins took their positions. They were armed with bombs and pistols, a line of 7 young men waiting for their chance to make history. The city was a sea of onlookers, a mix of curious citizens, loyal subjects, and plainclothes security who were tragically unaware of the plot unfolding in plain sight. The first assassin, stationed near a bridge, lost his nerve. He saw the Archduke's car approach, felt the weight of the bomb in his pocket, and did nothing. The procession continued, inching closer to the next conspirator. Then, a man named Nedeljko Vabranovia stepped forward. He armed his bomb, threw it towards the Archduke's open-topped car, and waited for the explosion. But the device was old, its fuse too long. It bounced off the folded roof of the car and rolled under the vehicle following behind, detonating and wounding several officers and onlookers. In the ensuing chaos, Vabranovia swallowed a cyanide pill and threw himself into the Miljaska River. But the poison was weak, and the river was only a few inches deep. He was dragged out, beaten by the crowd, and arrested. The plot had failed. The Archduke was alive. Franz Ferdinand, enraged but unharmed, insisted on continuing his journey to the town hall for the scheduled reception. There, he lashed out at the mayor. "I come here as your guest, and you people greet me with bombs." The official program was in tatters. A decision was made to alter the return route to avoid the crowded city center and the remaining unknown assassins. The new plan was to drive straight back along the Appel Quay, the same route they had just taken, to visit the officers wounded in the bomb attack at the hospital. It was a sensible precaution. But in the confusion of the moment, a fatal error occurred. Nobody told the driver. As the motorcade left the town hall, the lead cars turned right, back into the narrow streets of the old town, following the original, now discarded route. The Archduke's driver, following the car in front, made the same fateful turn onto Franz Joseph Street. An imperial official in the car shouted, "What is this?" "This is the wrong way. We're supposed to go straight." The driver, flustered, slammed on the brakes. The large Graf and stiff automobile stalled, its gears locking as he tried to reverse. For a few critical seconds, the heir to the empire was a stationary target, trapped in a motionless vehicle on a crowded street corner. Standing on that very corner, just feet away, was Gavrilo Princip. He was a 19-year-old student, the most determined of the assassins. After the bomb attack had failed, he had walked away, dejected, believing their chance was lost. He had stopped at a delicatessen, perhaps to buy a sandwich, perhaps just to linger in the crowd. And then, by a coincidence so staggering it defies belief, the Archduke's car had stopped directly in front of him. Princip saw his opportunity, a second chance delivered by sheer dumb luck. He stepped forward from the curb, raised his pistol, and fired 2 shots from a distance of no more than 5 feet. The first bullet struck Sophie in the abdomen. The second hit the Archduke in the neck, severing his jugular vein. At first, no one seemed to realize the severity of what had happened. Sophie slumped over, her face falling between her husband's knees. The Archduke, still upright, is said to have pleaded, "Sophie, Sophie, don't die. Live for our children." But as a trickle of blood appeared at his mouth, he too began to lose consciousness. He was rushed away, but it was too late. Within minutes, both the Archduke and his wife were dead. The assassin, Gavrilo Princip, was immediately seized by the crowd, beaten, and arrested. He, like Vabranovia, tried to kill himself with a cyanide pill that failed to work. He was just a boy, but his actions had doomed a generation. What followed was not justice. It was not a criminal investigation. It was a political firestorm. In Vienna, the assassination was seen not as the act of a few misguided youths, but as a direct attack by the Serbian state. For years, hardliners in the Austro-Hungarian government had been looking for a pretext to crush Serbia, to eliminate its growing influence in the Balkans once and for all. Princip's gunshot was the excuse they had been waiting for. They issued an ultimatum to Serbia, a list of demands so harsh and humiliating that they were designed to be rejected. Across Europe, a complex web of treaties and alliances designed to keep the peace now acted as a tripwire for war. Russia, seeing itself as the protector of the Slavic peoples, began to mobilize its vast army in support of Serbia. Germany, bound by treaty to Austria-Hungary, pledged its unconditional support, offering a blank check that emboldened Vienna's march to war. In response, France, allied with Russia, prepared for a conflict it saw as inevitable. Great Britain, hoping to remain aloof from the continent's quarrels, watched with growing dread as the dominoes began to fall. The diplomats talked, the telegraphs clicked, but the machinery of war, once set in motion, was impossible to stop. Within weeks, Europe exploded. On July 28th, exactly 1 month after the assassination, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. One by one, the great powers were dragged into the conflict. Germany declared war on Russia and France. When German troops invaded neutral Belgium to outflank the French army, Great Britain declared war on Germany. The war to end all wars had begun. The romantic notions of a quick, glorious conflict soon evaporated in the mud and blood of the trenches. It became a war of attrition, of machine guns, artillery, and poison gas. A war that consumed empires, redrew the map of the world, and left a scar on the human psyche that has never fully healed. Within years, 20 million people were dead. The Austro-Hungarian, German, Ottoman, and Russian empires, which had dominated the world for centuries, all lay in ruins. A lost generation of young men was wiped out on the battlefields of the Somme, Verdun, and Passchendaele. The world that emerged from the rubble in 1918 was a different, more cynical place. The shot fired by a 19-year-old student in Sarajevo did more than kill an archduke. It killed an era of certainty. All because of a wrong turn, a failed plot, and a single fateful moment that changed history forever.